Hello everyone, this is the second part of the sniper shooting tutorial series. In this video I will show you how to make a wind manager with simple UI wind indicator and how to make the bullet that we made in the last part react to the wind. First, let's make simple UI that will show wind strength to the player. For this purpose, let's make canvas with the slider UI. Next, we change the background texture of the slider to one with scale and remove fill area. We can also replace texture of the handle and label our scale with numbers from -10 to +10. After finishing our wind matter UI, let's create wind manager class that will generate and store wind direction and strength. We will store this information inside private vector3 field named wind. We will also need fields like wind delta to specify maximum amount by which wind can change in one update. Wind update time that indicates delta time after which we update the wind. Wind max magnitude that will limit the maximum magnitude of our wind vector. And wind start max magnitude that we will use in the start method to make random wind on start within its range. Next, let's add private field wind updated that will store value of the updated wind vector, so we can smoothly interpolate between current and next wind value. Also, we will need the time variable to measure time when we should update our wind. Now we can create update wind method that will interpolate between current and next wind vector. We will call this method in every Unity update. Next, let's update time variable and check if we exceeded the update time. If we did, we can reset time variable and calculate next updated wind vector. We will calculate it in the getUpdateWind method by adding random vector inside unit circle multiplied by wind delta and limiting its magnitude to the wind max magnitude. Next, we can create getter and setter for our wind. In the start method, we call setWind with random vector multiplied by wind start max magnitude. For now, let's set our wind field as serialized field for debug purposes to see its value in our editor. After creating wind manager object and attaching our component, we can see that our script works properly and the wind value changes as intended. To actually visualize this wind vector in our UI, we have to make new class that will project this 2D vector onto the one-dimensional line and set this value to our slider. We will create wind matter class that will store player transform, reference to the wind manager, and to our slider. Next, we will create update slider method that will convert wind vector from our wind manager to value from 0 to 1 that we can set to our slider. To do this, we need to get our player's right vector that will represent the line on which we want to project the wind vector. That way, even when the player rotates, wind direction showed on the slider still shows proper value in relation to the player rotation. So let's code this. To project one vector onto the other, we can use the dot product operation that will return the magnitude of the projected vector multiplied by magnitude of the second vector of the dot product. Because in our case magnitude of the second vector is always 1, we can just use value of the dot product without dividing it. To map this wind value to be from 0 to 1, we have to divide it by the double of the wind max magnitude and add 0.5. Let's attach our new script to wind manager object, assign needed values and test if this works. We can see that our wind matter shows us properly the wind, and if it shows value of, for example, 4, then when we rotate the player by 180 degrees, it will show us -4. Everything is great, but our bullet still doesn't react to the wind. So let's implement this behavior in code. To do this, we will add new variable in our parabolic bullet script that will be set in the initialize method. Next, we add windVec in the findPointOnParabola method to the result in a similar way like we added gravity to our bullet. And after that, we need to pass windVector to the initialization method of the bullet in the Sniper Rifle Manager class. For this purpose, we will create public field for the reference to wind manager and get wind value from it. After assigning values in the editor, we can test if our wind system works. We can see that our wind meter shows us that wind blows to the right, and when we shoot bullet, it accordingly turns to the right. So it would be all for this tutorial. In the next one, I will show you how to implement bullet ricochet, wall penetration, and decals. So stay tuned and subscribe not to miss new videos. Thanks for watching and happy coding. Cheers!